Out America on this blustery Thursday afternoon. We're here with Father Dale Grubba and Dean Strom, and today we're going to talk about hand cycling. Now, these two gentlemen were looking for something to keep their competitive juices flowing. We're going to start with Father Grubba. Father, why did you start hand cycling?
Well, what happened was I had run 63 marathons running-wise. I did New York 18 times and Boston 12 times, and then my knee just gave out and I had to have it replaced, so there was no, from then on I couldn't run. And I missed the atmosphere and I missed being part of the crowd so much that I had to try and figure out a way to get back into it, marathoning. And the way was through the hand cycle. And, you know, I started out, I think, probably in about 2005 or maybe a little bit before that, with a very elementary type of hand cycle, just to see if I would like it, and also to see if I was strong enough to do it. And I used that hand cycle, which was really like an upright wheelchair. You were sitting right up, and I had it out the other day because the ones that we're using today are pretty streamlined and pretty sophisticated, and I had it out the other day because I broke the shifting cable in my good one, so I wanted to continue practicing, and I dug that thing out, and I couldn't believe that I actually hand cycled that thing all the way across New York, 26 miles twice. It must have been a scary experience at the time. But then I decided that I really did like it, and that if I was gonna, and then Humpy Wheeler, the promoter at Charlotte Motor Speedway, said, you know, you should get one that's really competitive if you're going to continue to do this. And he said, I'll finance it. So he gave me $3,000. Mine originally, I think, new cost about $3,500 to $3,700. And so that gave me the chance to get into one that was very competitive and one that was very fast, but also, in a sense, one that was safe too, because the center of gravity is so low that, although I did flip it in New York going 40 miles an hour, which, so I still have the scars.
That's why you're scared to go fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, when everybody else is going off the Verrazano Bridge, they're going right by me, and I'm kind of easing my way off the Verrazano Bridge saying, I'll catch you down the road. And most of the time I do.
Now, Father, share the story when the ambulance or the safety crew got to you thinking that you were going to have to go to the hospital. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, well, what happened was it was right at the very start of the New York Marathon. You go up the Verrazano Bridge. That's because you go through all 5 boroughs, but you start in Staten Island just briefly, and then you go over the Verrazano Bridge, which is a mile up and then a mile down. So when you go down, I broke the brake cable. And I didn't have enough sense, because the bike was brand new, I didn't have enough sense to try and use the emergency brake. I'm just freewheeling. And the last time I looked down at the speedometer, I was going 40 miles an hour, and I thought, well, maybe I can sweep the corner because there's a sharp left-hand turn. So I tried to get out there. No way. And I flipped it right over. And
This bike you have now?
yeah, I can show you the scars on the top of the seat and I got a scar on the side of my helmet too, you know, because I had road burn for a long time. But anyway, in New York they've got helpers and policemen all over the place, and as soon as I stopped, these guys are surrounding me, and they said, "Do you want an ambulance? Do you want an ambulance?" I said, "No, just get me upright. I want to get going again." And I took off, and I did finish that race. But where I was really lucky when you look and you tell.
There was no more downhills to use the
No,
brake on.
there was some. It wasn't that. It was that. You know how our feet are up in
Yeah,
those stirrups?
yeah.
If my feet had come back and got hooked under the hand cycle, probably would have snapped both my legs off. I think about that all the time, that I was in a pretty precarious position. But, fortunately, all I had was a lot of rash, but I made it to the end of the race. And then I figured out that you could use that little parking brake. Yeah, but it was, you learn as you go.
So now we're going to bring Dean Strom into this, and we've all been friends with our racing connections. As everybody knows, racing's a big family. So Dean, tell us how you got interested in hand cycling.
Father Grubba told me I should be interested.
You should.
So I remember exactly where we were. I just don't remember if it was 2018 or 2019. We were in the pits at the Slinger Nationals, and because I'm working there at Slinger, doing the pit reporting, and you were there doing your duties, and we would always say hi to each other and just exchange pleasantries and chat for a minute. And I'm handicapped, so I need to walk with crutches because of my handicap, but my upper body is pretty good. And Father Grubba out of nowhere says to me, "Have you ever considered hand cycling?" And I knew what a hand cycle was, but I thought, no, I haven't. I haven't considered. Well, you should really consider hand cycling. It's your upper body. You'll be really good. It's really a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable, and it's great exercise, and you get your competitive juices going. I said, okay, all right. So, at the time, I had a real job. I still have a full-time job, a family, a daughter. An ice cream truck that my daughter and I ran at the time. I think I might have still been on the school board in Muskego, and I thought to myself, and then doing racetrack announcing.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I didn't tell you this, but I thought to myself, oh yeah, okay, I'll get right on that hand cycling thing in my spare time. So then I got off the school board and I sold the ice cream truck, and then in the pandemic, there was no need for racetrack announcers at NASCAR events because there was nobody in the stands. So I suddenly found myself with a lot of extra time on my hands, and this seed that had been planted about hand cycling was rolling around in my brain, and it finally came up to the forefront. So I called.
Then you came up and visited.
Then I came up and visited, and I just wanted to make sure I could do it. And Father Grubba let me try his hand cycle out, and I could do it, and I thought, sure. So he got me hooked up with a guy. Next thing you know, I'm buying a hand cycle.
Now you've acquired a personal trainer to help you with strength
Yep.
for this, correct?
Yep. So I did my first marathon in September, the Fox Cities Marathon, and up in the Appleton area. So go back 6 months, I thought to myself, and I think you were 80 at that time.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, if an 80-year-old priest can do a marathon on this hand cycle, by golly, I can do one. So, and I remember asking him, so how much training? Do you just basically fall off the couch and you go do a marathon? And he laughed. No, you have to train. I thought, okay, I'll train. So I went out about 6 months before the marathon, maybe 7 months before the marathon, and I was gonna try a little, just kind of a mock run to see how I was doing. So I got the app on my phone to see how far I can go and how fast I can go, and I took off, and I had what I thought was a pretty good ride, and I pulled back in the garage, and I pulled the phone out, and I looked up. 6 miles! 7 miles an hour, and I almost threw the phone across the garage. So I knew right then and there that I had to put in a little extra work on this. So yeah, I hired a personal trainer at the gym that I belong, and she was awesome, and she worked with me, and I just knew I had to become stronger. So became stronger, and I did the marathon, finished the whole marathon. He said, just finish.
Yeah.
Just focus
Your
on
first
finishing.
one,
Your
it's
first one,
important.
just focus on finishing. tell a racer
Yeah.
to just finish. Just finish. Dick Trickle, just finish the race. Don't worry about it.
I got my old one out.
Yeah.
God, I'm glad you didn't get that style. It was terrible. I couldn't believe how elementary that.
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy standing on.
So I finished the marathon, and I wanted to finish it strong, and I did. And I did it in 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Which I thought was exceptionally good. I really did.
Thank you.
What was that for miles per hour?
That was a little over 11 miles an hour. I think it was
Yeah.
about 11.2, 11.3 miles an hour.
Which
So,
is-
so in that 6-7 months of training, I had really picked up my endurance and my stamina and my strength. And now I'm hooked. I'm going to do another one.
See, that's how I did one on my 40th birthday. That was how I got started. Just to do something I would
Yeah.
remember my 40th
Yeah.
birthday. And then the pain kind of goes away after about 4 or 5 weeks. So you start, maybe I should do a second one, and then a third, which led into 63 of them running and now 21 on the hand cycle. But that competitiveness, it's kind of funny because I said to myself after I got done running, I said, okay, I'm taking up the hand cycle, and this is going to be leisurely. I'm just going to go out there and enjoy it. I've done my competitiveness with the running. Well, I did that Fox Valley, that was the first one, and there was a person ahead of me, probably about, we got probably about 300 yards from the finish. And I thought to myself, I can beat him. And sure enough, I took off and I beat him at the end. That was the end of the non-competitive thing right there. And then in New York last time in 2019, because they didn't have one last year, there was a guy that at the start of it, we came off of the Verrazano Bridge, and he said to me, well, the big hill is over, the tough part is over. And I said, no. When we get to the Queensboro Bridge, that's the tough one. So anyway, I could outmuscle him going up hills, but he would just fly off the downhills, and it kept going like that all the way to Queensboro Bridge, which is about 17 miles. And he's kind of putting up the Queensboro Bridge, and I go by him, and I said, yeah, I told you, didn't I, that the Queensboro Bridge is harder?
You were smack talking?
I smacked him, just trash talking him. So anyway, we come off there, and then you go down First Avenue, I think, and it's about 3-4 miles. And again, when we would get to the bridges, coming off the bridges, he would get me. So finally I thought, that's enough of that. And we got about maybe 6-7 miles from the finish, and I took off, and I passed him going up a bridge, and I thought, this is it, we're done, I'm out of here. And then I caught 2 other guys and one was 41 and the other was 40, because I looked in the paper the next day. And I could get right up on their wheel, but I could not get by them. Well, sometimes old age and treachery beat youth and enthusiasm, and we got to the finish, and because I've done that thing 24 times, I knew exactly how the finish lines were, and they kind of paused, to figure it out, and I zipped by both of them right at the finish line. I was so happy. It's one of those competitive moments where you just nail somebody right at the finish, and I got those 2 guys. But
Where were you in 2019 and overseas? Or was that 18 you were overseas?
I went to Cuba twice.
That's it.
Yeah.
Was that hand cycle?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I was going to ask
that was
you.
an experience and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably, and I got sick both times. And but I was leading the first time I won the marathon division.
In Cuba?
Yeah, there were probably about 10 or 12 guys.
They wouldn't have let you out had you won.
Well, I was a little worried about that, but I did win. But what happened was I got off course, because in Cuba, they just don't, it's not set up the same with the way it is in America, where you've got
Volunteers.
corner workers
Yeah,
and all that. So I'm going down the street, and the street's getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and I thought, this isn't where I'm supposed to be, because it was a two-loop course. And I had passed, there were 3 guys that were ahead of me on the first loop, and I finally got tired of just hanging behind them, because what I was doing was I was hanging behind them to get to know where the course was. Well, I got tired of that, and so I took off and got in the lead. Well, then when I got off course, I came back and I caught them again. And I'm sure they wondered, now where the heck did that guy go, or what's going on here? But yeah, I won that year. I won that marathon with my hand cycle. But that was going to Cuba was a real experience in terms of if you want to know what living in a socialist or a communist country is like, you over there you get like a ration book with sugar and flour and I forget what else, and then you get like about $25 a month spending money, and then you get free education, but at the end of your education you have to list the 10 jobs that you would really like to do. And if they're full, if they're full of track announcers, then they drop you down. You might get cigar rolling as your career. And then also with regard to medicine, the guys that really get the good medicine and doctors and stuff are out of country dignitaries. And then the next is the military and the police. You and I, if we go to the hospital there, first you have to take your own sheets and your own pillows and so forth, and then doctor appointments, there's no making an appointment. You just go and sit until they're ready to see you. But when you look at how blessed we are in America compared to that was a real eye opener. And when you look at the buildings and stuff and how they're deteriorating, most of those they'll have to bulldoze them under and start over again someday.
Now, when we came here, and thank you once again to John and the staff at Road America here in Elkhart Lake. We went on the go-kart track to get some footage of you guys to show people what your hand cycles are and how you ride them and everything like that. And Dean made the comment with his cycle that he believes, and he bought his second hand, and his hand cycle's slightly a little low, that on some streets it bottoms out. Now, when you were in Cuba, what were those streets like?
They were regular streets.
They were.
I didn't have any trouble with that, but I can tell just from the little experience that we had here at Elkhart Lake that he's faster than I am in curves and stuff like that. Just you wouldn't think it, but that little bit of a lower center of gravity just really makes a difference.
It's amazing because
I think he's faster anyway.
well, no, but Dean had the tape measure out. I thought he was going to do tech before they started, but what it was is
I thought he would disqualify me, and say you're out.
But the rear spindle height is the same on both hand cycles.
I was just trying to figure out how Father Grubba sits much higher than mine. We basically have the same bike.
But you can see
it's a
Dean's
different
has been
model.
altered.
I have a different model than you,
Yeah.
but I sit much, much lower, which generally isn't a problem, except when you bottom out every once in a while.
So that's kind of what I was after. That now, like when you were in the Fox Valley Marathon, did they take you on very nice streets, or did you have a few bad
There
ones?
was a couple of sketchy streets, and it wasn't their fault. It was just I think in one area there was a water main that broke or something, and it's like, so it was kind of tore up. But really, for the most part, it was nice. It was really a picturesque course. I mean, we got to go over the Fox River on this little path, bridge, pedestrian bridge. It was really nice. The thing that got me about the marathons was, everybody talks about the adventure, the journey leading up to it, and the training and the eating better, and then just taking care of yourself and the exercising and everything. And then the marathon is kind of like just the icing on the cake. But then when you got there at the Fox Cities, there was so many volunteers. I think they had over 1,000 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing, and the whole community would come out. We were going through subdivisions.
Yeah.
And people would come out of their house and sit at the end of their driveway with their cup of coffee and cheer you on.
Yeah,
It was just
that's
it was so amazing. And the whole community just really got behind the marathon up there, and with all the volunteers and everything, it was really cool. They put your name, on your badge, or on your what do they call those, bib.
Yeah.
Your name was on there, and they'd cheer you on by name.
Yeah.
It was really pretty cool.
And these are electronic scored, right?
It's electronic scored. Yeah, your bib has a little chip in it,
Yeah.
and
Which is really neat. When I started, they just had stopwatches.
okay.
Pretty much. And now all of that is so automatic, and it couldn't be any other way. For instance, at New York, they have 50,000 runners, and they could never have that many runners if they didn't have those chips
Right.
in those bibs, because you couldn't do it. Because I remember, but going back, like I did the Milwaukee Lakefront Marathon, and there was some pretty rough road, and I'm sure like you, it was different when I was running. All you had to do is get your body to the starting line.
Yeah.
But with a hand cycle, you've got to first of all, you got to get that equipment there. So and that's a journey in itself. But then I'm sure, like with you always worry that the shifting mechanism is still going to work, and you worry that the chain isn't going to jump off, and you worry more than anything else you're not going to get a flat tire, because like you got on some pretty rough road, and I thought, oh man, I'll lose. I could have a flat tire, and then you're done.
Director.
In closing, I just wanted to ask Dean. Dean, what would you tell a friend that asked you, should I take up hand cycling?
I think so. I mean, if obviously everybody's situation is different. My situation is different. I can't run a marathon, physically run the marathon, so this allows me to be competitive and do something competitive and still get some great exercise and get out there and do something. I was a swimmer. I'd swim, and quite honestly, that got boring. You go to the gym and you're in the lane, you're in the pool lane, up and down, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Same lane, looking at I got to the point where I knew the marks on the bottom of the pool because I had been by them so many times. So with the hand cycle, now I can just get out and I can go wherever. It doesn't matter what city I go to. If I want to just ride around my house in the neighborhoods around my house, or if I want to take the bike and go somewhere else and ride around. So it's really, it's awesome. It's great. It's been a great experience for me. Got one marathon under my belt. It seems kind of silly to do all that work and to have the bike and call it quits after just one marathon. So I'm going to do another one. I set 2 hours and 30 minutes as a goal, because if I beat that, then that was the first hurdle. Correct me if I'm wrong, to be able to qualify or to even enter the New York Marathon or the Boston Marathon or some of these other marathons. You have to have qualifying time of less than 2:30. So I put that as my goal. So I want to run some other ones. I want to do the Milwaukee Marathon. It's in my backyard. But I'd like to do New York and some of the other ones, and just get out. Whether I do 1 or 2 a year, I don't know. After the first one, I took a week off. I was kind of a slug for a week. But no, I can see doing more. I definitely want to do some more. It's the camaraderie is so cool, and the people are just so neat, and the vibe at these marathons is really kind of cool.
That's true. Like at New York, They have 1.5 million spectators.
Wow.
And there's one place where you come off the Queensboro Bridge, and then you take a tight turn, and you drop down onto the First Avenue, and they call that the world's largest Bloody Mary party in the world. Because for about a half a mile, it's just noise, just screaming and yelling, and that whole thing. And you're right, people turn out for all of these things, and it's just a great experience. One of the problems that we have is, some of the smaller ones, because it does take a lot of people. I think the Milwaukee Lakefront is 1,000 people to put it on. That some of the smaller ones, which would have had 400 people, just got backed out and don't have them anymore, just because they couldn't find the participants. It wasn't just the pandemic; it was the fact that because of the pandemic, the volunteers weren't there.
You gonna do some more marathons?
Yes, definitely. One of the things I found, and I think just being physically fit, I've always said that working out, being physically fit, has kept me 10 years younger than I am chronologically, physically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll find that too, that like with the swimming and then with the hand cycling, that it's a very valuable tool to staying young.
Yeah.
And I think mentally it keeps you young too, when you're competing and when you're and like you say, there's a great camaraderie that goes on with all of that. But it's just, I'm glad you took it up, and I knew once you finished the first one that there'd be a second one, because that's just the way it goes. So get set.
In closing here, everybody, I just wanted to say, and I want Father to comment on this. He just said that there's 1.5 million people at the New York City Marathon. Father Grubba, 2 or 3 years ago it was, you're walking down the sidewalk, and who walked up and said hi to you?
Oh, Matt Kenzie. I couldn't believe it.
In New York?
Yeah, Matt ran the New York Marathon.
1.5 million people.
1.5 million people. I'm walking down, I think, Fifth Avenue, and all of a sudden I hear his voice, Father Grubba, and I look and it's Matt Kenseth, in the middle of everything. But
anyways, watch the New York City Marathon. You can follow Father Grubba on their app, and you can see how he's doing. And we thank you for checking this out. And